If you've been around shopping centers for very long, you probably remember the days when you would learn about like the big holiday event at the mall from a commercial on the radio, or the back to school sale. You learn all about the prices in that big color spread in the Sunday paper, or maybe a new store opening from a 30-second TV ad with a catchy jingle. Some of those catchy jingles are still stuck in my head. JC Penney, I'm looking at you. But today, that old media has really traded relevance with new media. And its new stars are social media influencers. So, how does a shopping center work with these influencers? Today, we're going to find out how it works. So, I've got 3 guests today, and I'm super excited about all of them. I've got the CEO of an ad agency that works with social media influencers. I've got a social media creator based out of Northern Virginia that works with shopping centers in her area. And I've got a shopping center marketing expert with a big national influencer campaign that is rolling out now in multiple shopping centers as we speak. And as we talk, I've got a bunch of examples that we're going to watch together live and talk about them. And all of that is right now on Everything We Know About Retail. This is the show where we tell all of you everything we know about retail and real estate. We broadcast live on LinkedIn. We're also live on YouTube, but you don't have to watch us live. I know you're busy. You can watch the replay whenever you want. Just head on over to everythingweknow.show. That'll take you to our YouTube channel. In fact, stop what you're doing right now. Go to everythingweknow.show. That'll take you to our YouTube channel and just hit subscribe. Not only will you be subscribing to all of these LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live events that we do, but we post, I would call them retail safari videos, where we go to all kinds of cool retail places and post interesting videos that you're not going to see anywhere else. So head on over to our YouTube channel. So my name is James Cook. I research retail and real estate for JLL, and I'm coming to you live from Indiana. Now, if you're watching live, feel free to type in your questions into the chat. We're going to get to as many of them as we can in the section of the show that we call group chat. That comes at the end, but right now we're going to do some one-on-one interviews. And we're going to start with Jen Augustyn. Jen is the CEO of the Dealey Group. Jen, you're joining us live from Dallas, right?
Yes, that's right. Here at the headquarters of the Dealey Group.
Jen, are
in
you
Dallas,
able to hear me?
Texas. Yes,
Okay,
I am.
excellent.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. Yeah, I can hear you now. There might be a little bit of delay, but we're just going to roll with it. You sound great, so we're not even going to worry about it.
All
So,
right.
Jen, you're an ad agency and a content studio. Tell me, like off the bat, why would I, as a shopping center, want to work with an influencer? Like, what do I get out of it?
Well, I mean, I'll start with it works, James. Influencers really do sway shopper behavior. I mean, that's the bottom line. And there's some varying data on this, but probably at least half the people live with us right now have purchased something based on a post that they've seen online. Maybe it was trying a new restaurant or checking out a new store, maybe even like booked a vacation because of something you saw a travel influencer post. I know this week, actually, an influencer I follow posted this beautiful Christmas table setting. And I definitely bought some of the decor because I was inspired. So yeah, definitely, definitely these influencers make a difference. There's this one story comes to my mind. It's actually from a few years ago. One of the very first times we did influencer marketing, probably 10 years ago. We had a new Forever 21 store that was opening. and we wanted to get the word out. So we invited 20 influencers to come and be the first to shop. And literally all we did was offer them $100 gift card. That was it. And like looking back, honestly, that's just pennies in the bucket to what brands and shopping centers are spending now. And I know Ashlyn's going to tell you more about what JLL is doing. But that day in particular, it was pouring rain, James. I mean, like record rain. And of course, the store was an outdoor center. And there was also a run-in with the fire marshal, which we won't get into today. I'll stay on topic. But that was the most successful Forever 21 opening in the district that year. And it even surpassed Black Friday sales. So I bring up this story because so many brands and retailers and shopping centers have had experiences like that over the past decade. And that is why they're partnering with influencers. Influencers motivate fans to come out and shop in the pouring rain. And it is truly incredible. And if you ask like why or how is that even possible? I mean, the data tells us Gen Z, millennials, they consistently rank creators as the most trusted source for shopping, dining recommendations, more than ads, more than celebrities. So if you think about it, these influencers are really, they're the most trusted media outlet right now. Are you in the 50% that's been swayed by an influencer, James?
All the time. I use a lot of social media to think about if I'm traveling, where I'm going to eat, and also where I might go shopping at. So, I mean, it's kind of a research tool. So I get swayed, yeah, constantly. And, to your point, I see a commercial on TV. It's a commercial. It's very distant. But if I look at an influencer on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, like I treat it as a real person in a way. Their recommendations hold a lot more sway.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So you talked about this idea of the first one you did, it was a budget of $100 gift card. What are our shopping centers budgeting more money now for these kinds of influencer campaigns?
Oh yeah. I mean, 100% yes. We're
Yeah.
working with about 100 shopping centers across the US and Canada right now. And the budgets across the board are increasing. But it is, it's not just shopping centers. Shopping centers are part of a larger overarching trend across all brands, all verticals. Media dollars just continue to shift towards creator marketing. And you're just going to see it even more in verticals like fashion and retail, experiential, and things like that.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, and it makes perfect sense. I want to step aside for something and ask you kind of like a question that folks might have. What is the difference between an influencer and a creator? Are they the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So many people ask me that, James. So many people use the term interchangeably. So it does, it's very common, but there is a difference. And it's pretty simple. It really comes down to intention. So creators make content for the sake of making content. So think of like someone who's creating like killer video edits or beautiful photography, graphics that really stand out. And their content is really high quality because that is really their number one purpose. Like personally, I think of Karen X. If you don't follow her, she's a director that creates videos that go viral because they are just irresistible. Check her out. She actually she's been hired by brands. She created Puma's most viral TikTok of the year, among other amazing things. But influencers, on the other hand, I would say are more like social media personalities. So they make content to grow their personal brands. They really are focused on engagement and building that community. So their content may not be as like insanely creative or beautiful, but it's definitely engaging and interesting, and obviously influences people to their followers to do something or buy something. So like when I think of influencers, I think of the Queen, Amber Vensbox, who's one of the pioneers of creator marketing. Definitely check her out if you're not familiar. She created Like to Know It and is also still actively posting, her outfits of the day, and tags every brand that's included, has affiliate codes in the back end, so she gets a cut of everything her followers buy. So one, creators are really doing it for the creativity. Influencers are doing it for their personal brand. But honestly, the reality is there's so many people that are doing both, which is why the terms get used interchangeably. And, I hope that there is a difference, but there's a lot of overlap as well.
It's a spectrum. Yeah. And
Yeah.
everybody's kind of like in somewhere on that spectrum. Well, so Jen, Dealer Group is an ad agency. Your clients are often, owners of shopping centers. How does it work? Do you have sort of, I don't know, like a database of micro and regular like influencers across the nation? Like how do you connect them together? How does that work?
Well, with our clients, we will get to know and look for influencers in their respective markets. A lot of time it starts with real authentic shoppers, people that are really visiting, they're eating out, they're shopping, they're, coming to the entertainment destinations, they're posting organically from those destinations. A lot of times that's how those original partnerships form, really reaching out to people that are already truly advocates of our properties, and building relationships with those people. Definitely more long-term partnerships in play where we'll have a group, individuals or groups of influencers, almost forming like ambassadors for some of our clients.
Gotcha. It's so fascinating. Well, okay. So Jen, I'm going to move on to our next guest, but can you stick around for the group chat at the end of the
Of
show?
course. Yeah, I'd
All
love
right,
it.
excellent. So let's talk to an actual influencer or a creator. So our next guest is Nancy Bhasin, creator and influencer, joining us from Northern Virginia. If you want, actually, you should just go on Instagram and follow Basic Balance on Instagram. And Nancy, are you an influencer or a creator?
I'd like to say I'm both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah,
say
I think
I
that I
do a
think
little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, you have to be a creator if you're doing all this DIY, film production and editing. Like that is all a creative process.
Yes, it is. It's a long process. It's not as simple as just taking a picture and posting it on Instagram. It's more than just pretty
Uh-uh.
pictures and cool products.
It really is. So tell us, and I'm going to play one of your videos here as we talk. Tell us about your origin story. Like, how did you get into this line?
Sure. So I started Basic Balance back in 2019. It was initially meant to be like a creative outlet and space for me. At the time, I was a criminal justice victim advocate as my full time. So my background was all in criminal justice, and I did victim advocacy for about 12 years. So as you can imagine, that can be a little heavy and emotionally tolling and weighing on you. So I needed like an outlet for myself that was like my happy space, my fun space that wasn't so heavy and draining. Because I mean, while it was very rewarding work, it was also very emotionally draining. So I just needed an outlet for myself. So I created Basic Balance in 2019, and I started sharing my love for fashion, for styling, trying new restaurants. And at that time, I was probably only 3 years into the Northern Virginia area because I moved here from Miami about almost 8 years ago now. So I was going out a lot, trying new restaurants, enjoying the different seasons because we didn't get that in Florida. So I was out and about, and I was sharing my daily day-to-day on social media. And then that eventually developed a following. And then I was getting feedback on how the stuff that I was sharing was relatable to my followers. And then like if I styled an outfit, it was cool to hear that someone was like, oh, you know what, I needed to style that dress and I didn't know how to do it, but thanks for sharing. So I just started sharing my love for all things styling, fashion, fine dining, exploring the city. And then I eventually built a community that kind of that essentially put their trust into my recommendations and what I was sharing. So I'm 4 years in now and still going strong. And I love it just as much as I did when I started.
So your community values you as an authentic person. And if you post that you're shopping somewhere, for example, that's like on you. So you really have to be careful about who do a paid, engagement with, right?
Sure. Of course. I always, and this is one thing that I like told myself when I started, I would always want to be true to who I am and I'd want to be authentic. And I'm very careful in selecting the brands that I do work with because I want to make sure that it's a trusted brand, someone that I truly like enjoy shopping with and working with, and I'm giving my honest recommendation for that. So like you said, it's all on me. So I would never post about something that wasn't relative to like who I am as a person or my style or my fashion or just my personality in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And your personality comes through in everything you post. Tell us about one of the you've got a partnership here with Fairfax Corner, which is a local shopping center in your area. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I've actually been working with Fairfax Corner for about 2 years now. So they had initially reached out to me back in 2021 during one of their holiday campaigns. So they were developing a gift guide for the shopping center. So they had asked me to come visit the property, and they selected some stores for me to visit. So I was, of course, very excited about that because that's music to my ears. Shopping and capturing it is just what I love to do. So that was back in 2021. And one thing that I appreciated, like as an influencer, from an influencer's perspective, is prior to reaching out with me for a partnership, they actually did their research on my page. They were able to understand what my style was, like who I was, what my personality was, also kind of get an understanding of my engagement and my demographics. And as an influencer, I appreciate that because it just shows me that you understand like my personality, my style, and how we can work together prior to that. So they reached out to me initially for a gift guide, and I could tell they tailored the stores they wanted me to visit based on my style and what was on my page. So I truly did really appreciate that. And then we built a trusted partnership. I've been working with them for 2 years now. It's been a lot of fun. I feel like I'm very familiar with a lot of the retailers and the managers there now because I pop in every quarter to shoot content. So it's fun because you get to also build a community along the way and in the process, and I get to share what I love while doing it.
That's fantastic. Well, let's dig in a little bit more, kind of the behind the scenes. So on a typical post that you would do at Fairfax Corner, how does it start? Do they say, hey, we think you should highlight this, and then you have to think about how you're going to do it creatively? How does that work?
Yeah. So the one thing I love about working with Fairfax Corner is they do allow that creative freedom on my end. So they'll initially reach out with a set of deliverables, and those deliverables will entail their objectives and their goals, which is obviously very important to identify prior to capturing content and creating it. So they'll send me deliverables in a couple stores to pop into. And again, they've done their research in my style, so they know where I can go that is most relevant to me and also to my followers. And then there's a lot of moving parts to actually capturing and creating this content. There's a lot of pre-coordination prior to the shoot. So I can walk you through my process. If I am having to work right now I'm working on a holiday gift guide, their 12 Days of Cheer campaign. So they asked me to capture some things that I would recommend as a gift. So prior to going, there's the coordination that goes behind it is 1, figuring out the stores, 2, doing my individual research prior to going to see what their holiday specials are and what they have that I can capture that is authentic to myself and that I know my followers would appreciate and be interested in. And then there's a coordination with booking a photographer prior to that because I want to make sure that I'm captivating visual content. So I'll go through the process of coordinating my schedule along with a photographer's schedule and then the deliverable dates for the shopping center. So there's a lot of coordination prior to that. And then I figure out what I'm going to wear. What can I wear to basically keep my audience engaged that also demonstrates my sense of style. So figuring out my outfits. And then prior to that, once I've conducted my research, I'll get there early in advance and I'll scope out the property. I'll go over what I want to capture with my photographer so that we're on the same page, and so that my vision can kind of come to life. And then I'll just walk through and have them record my shopping experience. I will handpick items that I would personally buy for myself or give to somebody else. There have been multiple times that I've shopped when I didn't need to because I have somehow influenced myself and I'm like, I need this in my closet. So I basically just walk them through my entire shopping experience and make sure I'm meeting the objectives of my deliverable, but I'm also demonstrating my shopping experience and encouraging people to come out while they can during these sales. These are some holiday gift ideas if you need some. If you're struggling with an outfit and how to bedazzle one simple dress, let me show you how. So I do that all in store basically because I want to walk them through my shopping experience and kind of give them ideas and what they can do differently during the holidays, whether it's a gift or a styling or a nice date night restaurant for the holiday season. But I basically spend a whole day on the property while I'm trying to capture this content. And I usually coordinate also, in addition to that, I coordinate with the Dealy group who is working with Fairfax Corner. And I will coordinate with them to have the store managers know that I'm coming in advance because I never want to disrupt business as well. So prior to that, they get a heads up and they put it into their calendar so that, you know, I'm there, I'm in and out, I have my space to capture my content and I'm not disrupting business as usual. So it's a long process. A very loaded question, James.
I mean, that's intense. That's a lot of work. For example, I had not thought about having a professional photographer. I mean, that's a whole deal. Now, once it's filmed, do you edit it or how does that work?
Yep. And that's where the content creation comes in. When you asked me if I was an influencer or a creator, this is where I am creating and developing my own content. So if you look at my camera roll right now, I probably have like 70 videos of the same actual shot because you're just having to make sure you piece it all together. But I spend the next couple of days pretty much editing my photos. And then I also edit my video because there's something about a video that kind of delivers it differently. And so right now, you know, Instagram, that's my primary platform, is a very visually engaging platform. So that's why I have a photographer and I want to make sure I capture it seamlessly, but it's all editing on my end as well. So I edit my content, my videos, my photos, all of it.
That's awesome. And you've got to enjoy doing that, right? Because it's so much work.
It is. It's a lot of work.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they say, it doesn't feel like work if you love what you do. And that's just where I'm at with it now. I've been doing it for 4 years and I love what I do. It's a lot. It keeps me busy, but it also makes me happy.
That is so cool. So what do you think is the balance between, you know, in a regular week, are you like, we do X number of paid engagements, I do Y number of organic, or is it just kind of, it depends, kind of shifts over time?
Yeah. So I don't like to stack up my paid engagements because my platform isn't just for that. It's also just for basically walking you through my day-to-day, influencing you in other ways that doesn't necessarily require shopping or dining out. So I don't like to I don't like to have post back-to-back paid partnerships. I like to keep most of it organic for the most part. And that's one thing that I also appreciate while working with Fairfax Corner. They're very flexible in that, and they understand the significance of also remaining, the importance of allowing me to remain like me and it be my platform, and then also working with them in a partnership to share that. So I pretty much space it out. I will, during the holidays, it's a lot harder because there's a lot going on in the holiday season. There's a lot of sales, there's a lot of things to do. And so people are trying to get people to come out. So I think I have a pretty good balance on spacing it out. I don't like to post back-to-back like partnerships just because I feel like it becomes spammy at that point. And it's not, now you're just following me because you're trying to boost my engagement. And that's not what I'm here for. Like, while deliverables are important, I think it's also extremely important to remain authentic and focus on why I started this.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. If, you know, you were to give one piece of advice as a creator to, you know, a shopping center or retail, like a store, on how to get the most out of a partnership with a creator, with an influencer, what would the advice be? What's the best thing to do to make it successful?
Sure. I think prior to reaching out to an influencer, like do your research, try to understand whether or not this influencer does align with your brand and that this is something that you guys can build together, as opposed to having a one-time partnership and saying, hey, can you post about X, Y, and Z? We're having this sale. Can you go out there? I think it's important to have to make sure your goals and objectives align and that it works personality wise. So I think that's the best advice I can do. Like I can give, just do your research and allow that creative freedom. Because I can tell you as an influencer, it's very difficult and challenging to be limited in how you can share certain things and also be true to yourself and be authentic, because at this point it's building a trusted relationship with a brand. And then also you have a trusted relationship with your followers. They're relying on you for authentic content. And so I would never want to put myself in a position where I don't feel like I'm being real and honest about my opinion on this brand or this product and having to post it just because it's a paid partnership. That's the one thing that I wouldn't want to do. And I've never done that. So I think allowing that creative freedom is important. And then just understanding the influencers, like goals, objectives, personality, and like demographics on their platform and what their platform is serving for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Advice, but moving parts.
Well, I love that research is so important. I'm a researcher, so I'm always like, yes, research is very important. So you're based in Northern Virginia, so like the DC area. Do you consider yourself sort of a local influencer, or is your content kind of locally focused?
A lot of it is locally focused. I'm very big on supporting local brands and shopping local. I'm very involved with the local communities here, but I'm also, it's not just local. I think right now it's primarily locally focused, but I work with brands that are international as well. So it's kind of a good blend of both. But I would say a lot of it is locally based.
Gotcha. Yeah. And it's always like, they always say focus on a niche. And if if you've got like this certain area, especially like a, robust, like high population area, like where you live, there's plenty of, reward to be gained just from, focusing on that area. So if you've got a question for Nancy or Jen, get it in the chat. We're going to do a group chat in just a second. But first, we're going to say goodbye to Nancy for a minute and say hello to Ashlyn Booth. Welcome, Ashlyn.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So Ashlyn, you're joining us live from the Dallas area, right?
I'm actually in Houston, Texas.
Houston. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, I know. We were talking to Jen a minute ago, who's in Dallas. Yeah. So you head consumer marketing for the retail properties that JLL manages. You're a coworker of mine for many years. And a big part of that is your involvement in influencer marketing at all these different shopping centers. So I'm going to show some examples of some of these videos, but tell me about this Happy Holidays program.
Yeah. So what you're seeing on your screen is a series of videos from our 2023 holiday campaign. So every year, me and my team get together with our partners at the Dealey Group, probably late May to early June, and we start talking about the holiday season. What are we going to do? How are we going to get shoppers into our shopping centers? And the process starts early. We have a lot of discussions, but we had done a pretty successful program for back to school where we use TikTok. And we just saw this personal connection, people loving to see videos. And it just we've been doing influencers for years, but it was more of a one-off situation. One shopping center, as Jen mentioned, would do an influencer for a store grand opening. And what we wanted to do this year was really take it across the portfolio. So we oversee the marketing platform for about 75 shopping malls across the US and Canada. And so in order to do a holiday campaign and make it feel unique and make it feel local to that particular shopping center, it always presents a challenge. As we're creating a campaign, we're looking at photography, we're looking at building videos. It's challenging when you have a shopping center that maybe is on the Texas-Mexico border and you have one in Vancouver. You have very, very different customers. And so to create something that resonates locally is always a challenge, and it can get expensive. So with the success coming off of this TikTok campaign that we did for back to school, it just made sense to really tap into our influencers. And so the Dealy Group came to us with this idea of like, what if we went and for every market, we found an influencer who was already had a connection to the shopping center, and we brought them in to tell the story. And I'll be honest with you, it felt a little overwhelming to think about selecting all these different influencers in all these different markets. But it is probably, I mean, I'm so excited about this campaign. And as you mentioned, we're calling it Happy Holidays. And so we've partnered with influencers all over the country. And they are basically taking you on their journey to their local shopping center. And as you can see here in this video, they're bringing their kids along, they're picking out their outfits to see Santa. And so what we've been able to do is take the shopper on a journey inside the shopping center. And our goal as marketers of shopping centers is truly to get as close to the customer as absolutely possible. And so this is letting that local mom say, oh, look what I can pick out these adorable outfits for my kids, take them to see Santa. So the promotion just sort of came together, and we're calling it Holidays because the term haul is about, unboxing and showing what you purchased on a visit to a shopping center. So they've come together beautifully. We are actually creating over 120 videos across all of our shopping centers that will run. We started running our videos with our influencer partners on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. They will run right up until till Christmas Day. So it's been exciting for us to see this content come together because we produce content, obviously, for our centers and our social channels, but it's in the past been very limited because of budget. But now by asking these influencers to produce the content, we're able to stretch the budgets. We're able to get over 100 different pieces of content, and it's authentic to that local market. It's truly somebody that lives in that market, that shops at the shopping center, and they're taking you through their journey of shopping. Yeah, this one's super fun with the dogs. I mean, people spend more on dogs than they do on their kids. So, a lot of our influencers are showing what they're buying for their pets this holiday season. So, it's been a really fun promotion. We're only a week into it, and every morning I'm just scrolling through and looking at the videos I looked at one this morning from Kitsap, Washington, and a local influencer visiting our shopping center there. So it's been a fun partnership. And I think Nancy and Jen both use this word, and I'll say it too. It's about trust. It's about building trust. And who better to tell you about the local shopping center than somebody that lives there and shops there?
Yeah, it's fantastic. So let me ask you this. You mentioned hundreds of videos. How many centers are involved in having an influencer kind of partner with them over the holidays for this?
Yeah, so we have 32 of our managed shopping centers are doing this influencer partnership this year. Now we've hired 50 influencers. So in some markets, we're actually using 2 different people. But we have 32 shopping centers across Canada and the US that are doing an influencer campaign. And that's, really, it's a shift, James. I mean, you talked about it. You started this podcast talking about the full page color newsprint ads and the 30-second TV spots. And, sadly to say, that's when I started my career in shopping center marketing. And, I remember producing those TV spots and those radio commercials. So I'm right there with you. I probably could sing a jingle or 2 with you as well.
You should. You definitely should do that.
Maybe in the next segment. But yeah,
Okay.
it's been exciting. These 32 individuals, are just these 32 centers, just the content that's being produced. And, I'm sure you're going to ask me budget, and I'll just share with you what we're able to do because, again, working locally with these influencers in the market is really spread our marketing dollars. So this promotion, we're spending roughly $100,000, right at $100,000 across the 32 centers. So, around $3,200 a center to make this work. So it's just been a phenomenal program. yeah, we're only into week 1 again, and I'm super excited to see where some of the other videos as they roll out.
So traditional TV, like, like there's whatever the Nielsen's, so ratings, so approximately how many people saw your commercial. What are your, well, I mean, you've got metrics for impressions, right? So is that
We
how you're going to
absolutely
judge the success? Yeah.
We absolutely do. So we can look at the reach, we can look at the engagement, how many people saw it. We've got some contests tied into this. So you can win shopping sprees by liking or following the influencer and the shopping center. So yeah, so we're able to look at and follow those metrics. We also have centers that have actually done some digital ad buys on top of this. And we can geofence and actually see, based on those digital ads, where if we actually saw people come into the shopping center. So, being able, again, back in the day when you did a newsprint ad or a radio spot, you maybe got a viewership or the number of readers of the newspaper, but we can get pretty granular today in terms of the metrics. And then of course we look at traffic patterns. You saw those great videos that Nancy produces. I was influenced by a couple of those fabulous outfits she had on. You can talk to those retailers and say, hey, did you see an uptick? Did you see items sell out? That beautiful sweater that Nancy had on, did you see that item sell out? So there's a lot of metrics that we as marketers can get today that we haven't been able to get in the past. So it's exciting, to look at the data and look at the numbers. And that's the thing about having a great partner. I mean, we've got a great partner in the Dealey Group, is that when this promotion ends on December the 25th, we will look at all the data. We will look at the markets where it worked well. We will look at the influencers where we had the best experience, and we'll tweak and we'll refine the promotion. So that's exciting, something we didn't have back in the day, to really analyze the success of a program.
And so you've got certain benchmarks where you're going to say, hey, if we hit this, we're going to consider it a success, and,
Absolutely.
do it again next year. Was it a tough sell to the owners of these properties to do this, or were they all on board?
It's a great question. I mean, it's becoming more and more commonplace to use influencers, but it's still relatively an untraditional way of doing things. And, James, our portfolio, we have a lot of institutional clients. And so, to do something to kind of give somebody your brand, give somebody your shopping center to represent, it's, it can be a little bit difficult, but I think that, and I think especially coming out of the pandemic, 3 years ago, everybody understands the importance of social media today. And it's a pay to play game. You've got to be out there. You've got to be selling your brand digitally. And look, our biggest competitor is online. We're competing against the ease and the comfort of a box showing up at your door versus getting out and, braving the weather or loading up kids into car seats or whatever it might be. And so, if we can take this experience of remember what it was like as a kid to go see Santa and to pick out the perfect outfit, if we can literally show that in real time, we can show why shopping in brick and mortar is still the number one choice and why you're not going to get that with a box showing up at the door. So that was really for us the main goal, is let's bring people into the shopping center. So we didn't hire influencers who said, yeah, I'll promote some of your products and I'll unbox some things in my living room. We wanted them to physically be in the center shopping and showing what they got. And so that was the sell, that was the hook that really got our clients on board with wanting to do this.
That's fantastic. Well, let's jump into the group chat section of our show. I'm going to ask Nancy and Jen to join us back here in our round table. If you're watching live, please pop your questions into the chat for the group, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. So my first question, the properties that we're talking about, they have some budget. They have a marketing budget. Let's say you're on a shoestring. And I'm not sure who, maybe Jen or Ashlyn, you can start. Can you do this on a shoestring, or do you really need some budget behind this?
I mean, I think you can. I think you can make it work, and it really is about that partner and that influencer that you partner with. And so there are, there are tiers based on the number of followers or fans that they have. So maybe someone that's just sort of starting out and maybe has less than 10,000 followers, it might be less expensive to partner with them and work with them. And then somebody that has, 50 to 100,000, it's a pay to play game, as I just said. So it may cost you a little bit more. But I think Nancy made up said a really good point earlier. It's about building that local relationship. And that's what she did with Fairfax. I mean, they reached out to her. I'm guessing they probably started very small, and it was, one video, let's just do one thing. And then it grew over time. So, and if you want to compare this to traditional media, this is much more affordable. I mean, quite frankly, if you were to go out there and try to buy traditional media, it's very expensive. And again, very little ROI. So I think we, in our portfolio of shopping centers, I have centers that have a $50,000 annual marketing budget, all the way up to a center that has a $4 million marketing budget. And so we work really hard to create a program and a promotion that will scale across any budget, which is why I think this promotion, is going to be successful, because again, we've been able, it doesn't really matter where your property is or what your marketing budget is. We've priced it in such a way that we found an influencer we could work with and within the budget that center could afford.
Yeah. And to kind of build on that too, I think one thing that's interesting to consider as part of this is, when influencer marketing first started, let's be honest, influencer marketing started way before social media, but this iteration of influencer marketing, I think most people would have considered it maybe just PR, like a PR responsibility, kind of like getting influencers to go to a store opening, one and done. But now it's much more like cross-functional. Many different teams are getting involved. Partnerships are longer term, as we've said. So even centers with a small budget can get a lot more out of a partnership. So like one example comes to my mind. We've worked with an influencer. She goes by Eat Well, Explore Often. And this example I'm thinking of was actually during a COVID time period, where that little time period where stores were open, but people weren't quite ready to go out and shop yet. So it started as this PR idea to get the word out that stores were open, and even your local influencer is here to prove it. It's safe to come back. But then the social media team, of course, is like, well, we want that content. We're going to use that to increase customer engagement, to maybe grow our audience. Well, and then of course, tenant relations, they have a seat at the table. They want to provide retailer support. So many tenants, you guys know better than anybody, desperately needed help during that time. And then of course, a center with a limited budget doesn't have budget for photo shoots, but this creator had custom on-site photography that was beautiful, that we're able to use in a media buy across all digital media, that was custom on-site lifestyle photography. So that one little influencer engagement really now evolves much beyond that. So you can, the strategies and the goals associated even just with one engagement are just continuing to increase, and you can stretch your budget to make it go a little further.
Fascinating. So Nancy, what is the most difficult part about this work? What's the biggest challenge, do you think, to be successful?
Everyone's doing it. So how do you basically get yourself to stand out, right? That's the biggest challenge I think every influencer faces in today's world. How do you differentiate yourself from that pool? How do you make yourself stand out? How do you keep up with all of this? Because there is so much happening. And a lot of it is, one, building community, and then two, like networking and building partnerships, building relationships. And it's like, how do you find that balance, right? So that was my struggle when I first started, because when I first started, I was obviously very small. I was taking photos with my phone. I wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to head with this. And then I realized it's a market and it's an industry that requires a lot of networking and community involvement. So I found myself going to like every single event that I was invited to. I was signing up for every single partnership, and I was really just like overwhelming myself. And on top of that, I had like a full-time job. So I had to really sit down and really like evaluate and assess, like, how do I want to navigate this? How do I want to keep up with this? Because like I said earlier, it isn't as simple as like posting a picture and then hoping for the best and putting it out there. Like, you have deliverables to meet, you have an audience that you have to engage with, you have to develop compelling and captivating content so that you're meeting the goals that you set for yourself and the goals that you have set with the brand and the plaza, the shopping center. So I think the challenge is finding the balance. And when I went through my like reassessment and reevaluation phase, I was kind of just like, okay, well, what do I want to show, right? Like, how much do I want to show? What do I need to do? Like, what's my direction? What is my brand? What is my goal? So it's really like filtering it down to like how to be able to share who you are as a person, share what you love, and continue loving what to do without feeling super overwhelmed. So the biggest challenge is honestly balancing. And if I'm being honest, I'm still trying to find that balance. I've gotten a lot better about it over the years. I have selectively chosen what brands I want to work with and what partnerships based on, you know, what I believe in that brand. And like, for example, like one of the biggest, like with Fairfax Corner, I like know the loft manager because I love loft, and I'll walk in there and I'll be like, hey, I'm here to do my usual, like, you know, quarterly content. But it's really just about like, I'm going off now, but it's really just about balancing and finding the balance in it all. Like setting up a schedule for yourself while working full time, editing content. So much is behind it. But the biggest challenge, I think, is balance, and being able to find that and being in a comfortable place where you feel like you're succeeding in that area. And then you're also succeeding in your full time, and you're just like, and everything, like you're present in it all. But yes, to answer your question, the challenge, I think, is balance and finding that balance and keeping up with and remaining authentic throughout it.
You mentioned, yeah, like the challenge of standing out when everybody, you know, is an influencer. Potentially everybody's got an Instagram account. Anybody who's watching you also has the ability to post. Ashlyn, when you're thinking about influencers, or maybe Jen, this is a question for you too. Like, how do you say, oh, this is a person that stands out? Like, is it, maybe it's a je ne sais quoi kind of thing? Like, oh, this person just has an effervescence to them. Or is there something more than that? I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's looking at their content, looking at their videos, you know, what are they posting, especially for us. So, because, you know, if it's somebody I personally want to follow, I tend to follow people that have the same, you know, interest in fashion that I do. They shop at the same stores that I do. I like the outfits they put together, or just like Jen was looking at a tablescape. So personally, I think, you know, we seek out people and brands to follow that feel most like us and that, you know, helps us get to our truer self. But I think when you're doing it for a shopping center, you know, it's trying to find someone that would be the ideal, you know, what does our typical customer look like? You know, so we have demographic data, we have psychographic data, we use geofence research to see who is the customer coming to the shopping center. I was looking at some data just yesterday for a project, and I would have thought, because this project was out in the burbs, that they would have a large presence of children, but they skewed very low with the number of children in the household. And so that right there told me, like, you know, maybe an influencer partner is not somebody with 6 kids in tow going to the shopping center. This may be more of a dual income working couple, or, you know, so it does change your perspective. So, I mean, James, you're the research guy. So, you know, it is about looking at the research, especially when we're deciding which influencers to partner with for a shopping center. We have to know who is that customer of that shopping center and who's going to resonate with our customers when we decide to partner with someone.
Yeah, and I don't have too much to add. Oh, sorry. I don't have too much to add to that. But in the last 2 years, the number of creators and influencers out there has gone from 50 million to 200 million in 2 years. So Nancy mentioned, the, challenge on her end of standing out, but which is a real challenge, especially, and for us too, creating content that stands out at the agency level. But when it comes to finding influencers and creators in each market that are going to represent nearly every demographic, there are so many more options, and at every budget level. So, maybe 5 years ago, it would have been really hard to find influencers in all these markets, certainly 10 years ago. But now, you really can look at the data, like Ashlyn said, think about the goals and objectives of that campaign. Is it dining focused? Is it fitness focused? And find those influencers that really match that specific market, that property, the goals of the campaign, and find the right partners. And to tie back to what Nancy was saying earlier, taking the time to look at that content to see if that person's authentic style will mesh well with what the shopping center wants to accomplish.
And talking about that, it all sounds so much more fragmented. Like, I mean, Ashlyn, we're talking about back in the day, you buy an ad on one TV station and you're good for the market, right? And now you've got all of these other places to think about. That must make it a lot more difficult. I mean, it could be really, really time consuming, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, and that's truly why we have, external partners who help us. We certainly are overseeing the strategy and managing the budget, but we partner with, Jen at the Dealey Group. They come to us with the concept and the ideas. We have a great website partner. We have a great mobile and email partner. And so we're all, I'll take you through a day in the life. We're on the phone every Tuesday for an hour plus, all the agency partners, all the marketers, and we're talking about the strategy. And we do it every week because it's important that all of those channels are integrated, that it's seamless, that if content is being created by Jen's team that's living on our social channels, that it's also being pushed out in our email blast. It's also living on our website. So it's a very different day in the world of marketing. And I would just say to any brand or business out there that wants to do this, align yourselves with really good partners that can help you navigate the difficult world. I think there's still this misconception that social media is just posting pictures, as Nancy has said. It's just posting a picture out there and, people will like it. It's a strategy and it's a game. And just when you think you have it figured out, Meta's going to change the algorithm or, come up with a new rule that you can't tag or post or, so it's a constant evolution. And if, for us, we really, as a shopping center management company, and we're responsible for our clients' assets and their marketing budgets, we really have to have great partners in the digital space to guide us. There's no way we could keep up with the metaverse of social and digital media. It's just too complicated.
So we did have there is a couple of questions actually I wanted to ask, and oh man, we're running out of time. Real quick, Laura had asked about doing due diligence. Jen, I think that's probably part of your world. And you spoke to this a little bit, but beyond, vetting, looking at the page, are there any other things you have to do to vet influencers that you're going to work with?
Well, some of the processes that we put in place are similar to hiring an employee at the Dealey Group. But also you can look at past partnerships. If you see that an influencer has worked with other brands successfully, that gives you a little bit more assurance that this partnership is going to go well. But yeah, there definitely is due diligence involved. That is part of the process that we own and are responsible for, and definitely an important part of the process.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you've got to make sure that you're not putting somebody on a spotlight that maybe you don't want to be seen as a partner with. Well, okay, so there are more questions, but we're out of time. So thank you all for joining me today. This has been a fascinating conversation, and I'd love to talk more about it again. Maybe we'll do another roundup a year from now and see see how everything's progressed. I want to let everybody know that if you are interested in what we've talked about today and you want more, listen to the Where We Buy podcast. It is much more than what we do here on video live streams. There's lots of audio interviews. We do a new episode every week. I listen on Spotify, and I just go into Spotify and search for Where We Buy, and I follow right in there. Or you can find us on the web at wherewebuy.show. Latest episode is about what holiday shoppers are planning to spend their money on in the next month or so. We also have reports about those same topics like holiday spending over at jll.com. You could just search for holiday at jll.com and be one of the first results. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you're watching us on LinkedIn, be sure to follow JLL Retail so you'll hear about the latest and greatest of these webinars before anybody else. Be the first of your friends to know about the latest everything we know about retail. So this show's called Everything We Know About Retail. What did I learn about retail today? I learned that it is a very complex yet beneficial endeavor for your shopping center to partner with an influencer. And you've got to think long and hard about it, but you also have to do it, because if you don't do it, you're going to be left in the dust. So that's what I learned about retail today. If you want to learn more about everything we know about retail, you can join us here again on our next episode.